Okay, good morning. It's Good Friday, and yesterday was Maundy Thursday, but I took a little day excursion to Anacostia to see if I could see the site of the January plane helicopter crash, which was actually closer to the DC shore on the east than it was to Virginia. And I wanted to see what would happen if I went by bus and tried to get to it. This is actually a view from the Anacostia station, the parking area looking, I guess you can't see the river very well. Just go through a few of the pictures. That's some artwork at the Anacostia station. It's interesting, fishes. And that's where the bus route. And then it turns out that where MacDill meets Malcolm X Boulevard, about a mile south of the Anacostia metro station on the W4 bus line. Which turns to go north to Deanwood. The What you really encounter is the Bowling Air Force Base, um, and I can actually show a map here. And the Anacostia Metro was up here, rode the bus down here to right here, and the actual crash in late January between the American Eagle and the chopper was right about here, pretty close to the shore, and it could easily. I mean, if it had been more unfortunate, some of it could have landed on the base and caused casualties on the military base. And this is almost all of this property on the east side of the Potomac here. It seems to be military and government property till you get down almost to National Harbor. There are some townhomes that might even be military officers or something. The the Secret Service has an office up here somewhere. There's Gleesboro Park, which is what I wanted to do, was walk to Gleesboro Park and see if I could see the area, which is right around here. But that's part of Bowling Air Force Base. And um, back in the around 1971, when I was trying to date girls for a while, and had made other friends, but had made other friends that where I was working then was Naval Command System Support Activity, which is more or less in here now. This bridge wasn't there then. Was more or less in here in the Washington Naval Yard. The Navy Yard is up here. Water Street was here. I think the building I worked in was down around here. Um, but getting back to here, um, we went over for a baseball game, or maybe it was a softball game one day in the early evening in the late summer of 1971, and I think it was in Gleesboro Park on Bowling Air Force Base. I still remember that. But Bowling is not to be confused with Andrews, which is what the president flies out of, which is about 10 miles to the southeast in Prince George's County. That's a different base. Um, but it was approximately right around here is where the crash was. And so if I go back to the pictures and and then that one is one other picture. Just trying, I think that's 295 going north. 295 and South Capitol Street run parallel through there. And I think that's all of the pictures. I wanted to show a brief, brief video. Here's the picture of it. Same, it's actually a better picture than the one. This is from the Sony camera. They had the pedestrian entrance open, and I was able to walk through that. And then there was an airman, and I asked him, "Are pedestrians allowed in here to go over to the park to see the river?" And he said, "No, you have to have a pass." I don't. I'm an amateur, like the movie, The Amateur. Like that movie I'm a professional amateur. I don't have a press pass, so I couldn't really get a pass. So this is as far as I could go. I couldn't really see the river very well. I could just barely see it. But off in this direction, right over these trees, probably only 1,000 feet or so, 1,500 feet from right here is where the trees are, is where the crash occurred. So that's rather chilling. And there were not very many attempts on the part of the media to show the crash site from the Washington, D.C., the east side of the Potomac, which is south of where the Anacostia merges with it a little bit. They didn't show that because this is all practically all military property, it seems like. And very hard for civilians to get in there, even established media, commercial media to get in there to report it. It seems like they don't allow them to do that. So this is the best I could do with this little field trip yesterday. But to here's the video on my Sony camera. Just 10 seconds. And that's about all I have with this. But I had wanted to cover that incident, which was shortly after Trump's inauguration, from the point of view of the view from which is much closer from the east side of the Potomac River because no one had done it. And it's really ordinary journalists or bloggers or something really aren't able to do that because it's all military property. But Bowling Air Force Base has been around for a long time. I remember that. And we actually had two Air Force bases in the area, Andrews being the other, and for the president. And then we have Fort McNair, which is near the wharf, which is where President Clinton announced "Don't ask, don't tell, don't pursue" in 1993. And the area where I used to park my car when I worked for NAV Cossack in 1971, and the Navy Yard has become the wharf now, largely speaking. And that's where a lot of the Pride celebration is going to be in June. A lot of it, which is not park property, that might be one reason it's all private property. And along the Anacostia, all new and modern and everything. And so the entire area has changed a lot. And but this was interesting to try to see what had happened with this incident in January. And it could have been what I came away with thinking is that it could have been had much worse consequences than it did, had it any parts or had any of it landed on the Air Force Base and caused actual casualties as well as property damage on the base. Fortunately, that didn't happen. But that's something the media hasn't covered. And I just sort of can figure this out from just looking at the maps. I'll give you a link to the map also in the description. And that's what I have for today. It's Good Friday. And I do thank you for listening.